You still need that human for complex and larger ticket items and senior living, senior care. You need humans to know this is your family you're talking about. There will be that need to have humans involved.
Is AI going to save your marketing strategy or slowly render your agency obsolete? Today's guest has been in the digital trenches for nearly 30 years and has a refreshingly grounded take on what's changing, what's hype, and what will always matter.
Welcome to From Leads to Leases, a CCR growth podcast that helps senior living providers transform their complex challenges into opportunities. Listen in for stories from industry leaders, innovative strategies, and insights. And with our expertise, learn how to increase occupancy faster, guaranteed.
Welcome back to another episode of From Leads to Leases, the podcast that dives deep into the senior living and senior care industries, bringing you insights, strategies, and stories from the experts at the forefront of innovation, leadership, and care. I'm your host, Jerry Vinci, CEO of CCR Growth. For those of you who don't know about us, CCR Growth is a full-service marketing and growth agency that is exclusive to the senior living industry. And through this podcast, I'm here to guide you through the evolving landscape of senior care, exploring the innovations, strategies, and leadership insights that are shaping the future of the industry. So whether you're a provider, a caregiver, or an industry leader, the show is here to help you make informed decisions and create meaningful impact. All right, today I am joined by Kent Lewis, managing partner of Anvil Unlimited, founder of PDX Mindshare, and a veteran in the digital marketing space. Kent has led 10 agencies, advised over 1,200 clients, and now works as a fractional CMO, helping companies adapt to a post-AI marketing landscape. So whether it's SEO, paid media, conversion strategy, or leadership, Kent brings the kind of clarity only experience can provide. He's also a well-known speaker, mentor, and advocate for lean, smart marketing teams that thrive in times of disruption. So welcome to the show, Kent. I'm so glad to have you here.
Jerry, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Being a fellow marketer, this is always a conversation I love to have. And I do think because so many senior living teams have marketing and sales at the heart of what they do, I think it's really important that they get some perspective from two seasoned marketers here who've been in it since the beginning. I think first I want to talk to you about the long view. You've seen digital marketing evolve from dial-up to AI. I mean, what's been the biggest mindset shift you've had to make over the years?
I would say that the greatest shift we've seen in AI, and keep in mind, I started my career in, the mid 90s and was in search by 96. And the biggest challenge I saw was, or the biggest change I've seen, which is bigger than the internet, in my mind, this change will be bigger than e-commerce, bigger than shifting from print to online, is when, for instance, a friend of mine who's a futurist said when quantum computing rolls out, these really high-powered chips that are exponentially more powerful than anything you've ever seen, it'll kill the banking industry. Nothing will be secure. So meaning everything will have to change again. But until then, those are maybe a few years out, but AI is changing the way we work, the way we think. As a solopreneur, part-time solopreneur, fractional CMO, I can do so much more using AI to support my handful of clients that I work with. And then there's which seems far more impactful for my clients and efficiency for me. It makes me more profitable per hour, and I'm delivering far more at a much lower price to my clients as a marketer, but also as running a nonprofit trade group, Next Northwest. It's, creative services and marketing, digital marketing industry for the Pacific Northwest is it will allow us to sustain and grow as we use these tools for more than just creating content, to creating value for our members and so forth. So I don't think there's any part of our daily lives it can't touch or isn't already touching in some way, whether we know it or not, frankly.
And why do you think digital marketing is still evolving? Well, it seems like it's evolving faster than most industries.
I think that it's evolving faster because marketers, the smart ones, are experimentalists, are researchers, are constantly testing new things. Also, I think you can say that that's the plus side is marketers are cool and fearless and have a high risk tolerance. Also, we are we're in a very precarious place where we can get fired very quickly. I've been, you mentioned I've been a part of 10 agencies. I didn't lead them all, but I led many of them, is that, I would get fired as an agency for no reason at all. versus employees that I worked with that were terrible in-house and couldn't get fired. So we have to evolve in order to stay relevant with our clients as a service provider. As a overall marketer, we still have to be competitive to keep our job, right? In the brand side corporate marketing. So I think that's the main thing, is that it's by necessity. I'd like to say that's the bare minimum. And then the really most successful marketers are doing it because they know it gives them an edge. And we may only be minutes ahead of the competitors now, not days, hours, weeks, months, or years. It's a really fast game of escalation.
Yeah. And I think for most of us too, that are specifically in a B2B marketing space, we're the guardians for our clients, right? We're the ones that are making sure that their business has a presence online. We're the ones that make sure that their business has a presence that stays online and stays competitive and profitable and all of those things. And the second that we're not doing our job and staying up on tech, it's a downward spiral for them. And then, of course, the marketing budget is the first thing that gets cut if that happens. So yeah, it definitely is survival plus looking out for everybody's best interests.
Correct. 100% agree.
One of the things you talked about with in terms of AI too, is you talked about it being a force multiplier. What does that look like in real life for businesses trying to navigate this change?
So force multiplier, I'll give you a couple examples. One, I think that term came out of the SLEC event we were both attending, is the example I gave there, and I'll give here, is the org chart. The new org chart will have, your marketing team, let's say, as a subset of the overall organization. And within marketing, let's say you have a 5-person marketing team. Each one of them over time, I think this is just an idea I saw from a forward-thinking CMO, chief marketing officer, is that each employee has 3 to 5 bots under them that are part of the team in the org chart. So they're taken seriously, and I would say given some, accountability to get some things done. And you don't have the negotiation for increases in pay and all of those HR things, but you can have output. And this is the interim between today's bots and tomorrow's fully agentic, fully autonomous beings that go do things for you on a regular. I would caution against that. And this is another conversation, but right now, the best use of AI is there's a human touch point at every key element, because as was discussed in the session we met, it becomes this exponential field of fluvia that, like a river delta, that just one mistake could put you over here, way off course, or way over here. So every little correction matters. So you need to have individual humans looking at each touch point to make sure that this stuff is still on track. It's not hallucinating, it's learning, it's getting better, not dumber or totally racist or whatever the issue is. So I think we have years before agentic. We can say that next year we'll have a better idea of what agentic is and what it looks like. But for now, we're still kind of tripping over our own bots, making potentially costly errors. So there's still a lot more training to do. But I could say, if we look back 5 years from now and say, remember bots? Those were quaint. And now everything's agentic. It's, it's shopping for you, doing everything. It's kind of like the movie WALL-E, the Disney Pixar film, where people are just in chairs and they don't move and they kind of get fat and lose their bone structure, because AI will do everything for us. So again, when you talk about a career, you and I, Jerry, may be out of a job in 5 years. And so I'm planning for that 5-year retirement, maybe out of necessity. But the other part is that if you're in a blue collar world of HVAC, electrician, the crafts, you're pretty bulletproof for the time being until robots get that good at it. And I don't think I think if you're a tile person or doing wallboard and roofing, like you're pretty safe. And I have no problem if my kids want to go into trade craft. It may be safer career-wise, but be that as it may, I think we are all going to see radicalization. So back to the force multiplier, it could look at your role could be managing 4 or 5 bots. The other multiplier, just like I mentioned with me earlier, is, I'll give you an example. I have a client that I advise that my clients create FAQs as a SEO strategy and as a useful strategy to help educate potential buyers on common questions. Makes sense. It's really good AI fodder, AI overviews, like pulling from FAQs. They typically rank well on their own. But I was able to create an FAQ using Claude that I used my client's website to answer the questions, and their voice without a pro version. No premium version required to do this. And then obviously with Claude, you can also upload documents. So I can upload, say, their style guide or some other information. And I was able in 10 minutes to, from the time I started the prompt till the time I emailed them the finished document, a really solid FAQ, and now it's in proofing stage. I sent it in the last week, so we'll see how accurate it is. But a year ago, I was helping create blogs and other content that were hot garbage. They were complete hallucinations. I was pulling from old data and not directly from the websites you asked them to pull from, because they couldn't do that a year ago, and they couldn't do it 6 months ago. So the things are evolving radically. And so now force multipliers, in my old agency, Anvil, I would have charged them probably $2,000 for that FAQ, maybe more, and it would have taken 8 to 15 hours or whatever. And it took me, all back and forth under 30 minutes. And, I charge them well under $1,000 for it. So the value is still there, and they can help guide me. Is that good stuff? So force multiplier, I now am able to create content that would have taken 2 to 3 people and, 5 to 10 times longer. So that's my example. And you can go on and on different stages of creating content, editing, programming, producing, reporting. All of these things can be dramatically streamlined as a multiplier.
It does sound like for us as we stand right now, AI could potentially be the silver bullet, right? But I do think there's a lot of value too that comes out of honing the skill set around how to use AI. That's something that a lot of people are just now getting started with. And you and I are probably somewhat light years ahead of them. So as long as we stay ahead of the curve just a little bit, it seems like we have a chance to evolve our skill sets as well, along with technology.
Yeah, 100%. And so,
Yeah.
I think so. There's a silver bullet, not to lead the witness, but it is not perfect, because there is still the need for human interaction. And I'll tell you this,
Yeah.
I just had lunch yesterday with a friend of mine that was 15 to 18 years in the coffee industry, went from knowing nothing about coffee to become the top salesman in history for this local coffee company here in Portland. And then he got burned out. He's like, I'm done with coffee. And then he went in to do the financial services thing, to become a financial advisor. He gave that a year. He's like, this is not for me. I don't, for a lot of reasons, it wasn't a good fit for him. Then he went into the cigar business. This guy begged him to come on board, help take this retail cigar store to the next level. And he did it. And instead of 15 years, a year and a half later, he's like, I've maximized this. I need to go to my next thing. And his whole thing is, I need to keep learning new things. He said, the one thing that I've got that AI doesn't is the ability to create a connection with another human. And he's very, very good at it. And so he can learn a whole new business, a whole new set of products very quickly and talk about it like he's a native. But that's secondary to his connection with, say, you in a very short amount of time that AI cannot. I might eat my words in 2 to 3 years, where we have been so full that we fall in love with a bot, right? But I've never talked that much on a phone with somebody or a video conference where I'm like, oh my God. But Her is a movie, and it's probably not going to be fiction for much longer. My point is that it's a silver bullet in a lot of ways, but it will not replace the blue collar, whatever shape that is, and then that human high-level relationship stuff. It can definitely assist. It can be a force multiplier by taking somebody who doesn't know you, building a basic rapport, and then scheduling a meeting, and then first time you talk to them, they've already been through 70% of the research and conversations, and you're closing that deal. But you still need that human for complex and larger ticket items and senior living, senior care. You need humans to know this is your family you're talking about. There will be that need to have humans involved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting too, because I think it's the first time in history where we're seeing some of the top paying jobs now be at risk because of technology. You've got anesthesiologist, for example, who's one of the highest paid salary in the country, I believe. And that's a job that potentially in a couple of years, AI could be doing without any intervention from a human. So it's kind of a scary time for people who are highly specialized.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
Now, just talking about SEO, it's obviously changing rapidly now that we're seeing so much search volume happening on the language learning model platforms like ChatGPT. Some say it's dead. Google's dying. What's your perception on where it's heading?
So, I've heard, the Google's dying or SEO is dead for 15 years. Mostly SEO is dead 15 years ago, 10 years ago. But I think the Google dying there's a part of it's true. It's not like print. And it's not like vinyl that is making a comeback for specific reasons and nostalgia. It's that Google will evolve as AI evolves and as human behavior evolves. They will always play a key role. I don't think they will be obsolete like Polaroid and Kodak and so forth. I could be wrong, but I think that they are a little too paranoid for that. But our behavior is changing, and I think their role will change in search. And right now, that role is they are providing that AI-like experience with the AI overviews. That means I don't have to go to Perplexity or somewhere else if I don't want to. It's all in the same interface I'm used to. And they're citing the sources on the side. It's getting better. The data is far better. So now that means that marketers need to figure out about, AI optimization, GAI, whatever you want to call it, for optimizing for these AI overviews or the summaries. And so there are a couple different strategies and tactics I've seen, but the good news is for people that are selling SEO or for clients or brands panicking about it is the fundamentals will still work with AIO, because what's happening is AI is just summarizing and synthesizing a variety of sources and giving you the best. That's almost exactly what Google's been doing for 20 something years. So the major difference is it's in a little different delivery, and you're not seeing the clicks because you're not getting as many clicks because they're getting what they need from the AI overview answer. However, what that does mean in my mind is that if we're now 70% of the way through the buying process or more by the time we go to a website, if that's 70 today, it'll be 90 tomorrow, right? In the future.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure you're creating really high quality content that's unique to your brand, that fills the AI appetite. And then those sources, those citations will come back to you, and you'll be getting highly qualified. So traffic will go down and conversion rates should go way, way, way up as you're getting fewer, more qualified traffic, whether it's leads, inquiries for, or applications to apply to a home, etc. And so the kind of content that's working is anything unique. So transcribing webinars, podcasts like we're doing here is good. Writing original articles that are not AI sourced so that they add to the opportunity. Others will steal from your bucket, but it's your bucket and you're going to get citations and perhaps over time, actually compensation. The other way is, it's more about conversations now than it is about content. So what are the conversations on Reddit and Quora and other industry specific forums, and where are you playing in that? Other things like press releases are making a little bit of a comeback in AI, and so are listicles, something we used back in the day, like top 10 this, top 20 that, best places near me, is creating that content, getting in on the existing content, helping create the future best of content, and being a part of that conversation. All of that seems to be feeding the AI engine.
But the paid side of things, do you see paid media becoming fully automated?
So I might be more concerned about paid search than I am about SEO, because will Google give up all that revenue willingly? No. So they're going to try and figure out ways to integrate paid sponsored ads into the AI overviews. It's a matter of time. And I haven't even read about it. I'm just assuming that's going to happen. And I think the model may have to change from click to view back to the old days. So you're viewing, you would charge based on how many people viewed that content in the AI overview. But that, then how do you measure that, right? So the clicks are easier to measure and more absolute. So volume will be decreasing automatically as AI takes over. They'll find new ways to monetize the AI overviews, as I mentioned. And then to your point, yes, automation will be increasingly accepted as a standard, like Performance Max. But I will say that, and this is old information, like 8 to 15 years ago. But when we were competing manually against DoubleClick and other large bid management tools that were using machine learning and early AI, we were outperforming almost every time. But that AI, even AI from 4 months ago, can't compete with AI today. So if it's more than a year old, it's irrelevant, effectively. So my assessment is not as relevant. But what I would say is AI, in theory, kind of has to be better than a human, but we could get a bunch of paid media experts around and say where the human part matters, but I'm not enough of an expert. I've hired them. I haven't been one of them. Is what exactly the human element is most important for beyond the relationship on the account side, right? Is what can a human do that AI can't do as good or better? And I think that would be a question I'd pose to the paid media experts, because I'm not 100% sure. If it's like SEO, it would be, you have to weed through all the content that AI generates, because it will generate errant keywords, meta tag recommendations. Like, it's totally not there. It'll say for somebody launching a business doesn't know AI and plugs in, doesn't know SEO and uses AI they'll get maybe 70 to 80% of the way there. So I think humans will be the last mile, that last 20%. And the question is, does that 20% create 80% of the value? That's going to be the statement that we have to prove as marketers on the paid side in particular.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at senior living, we look at how much the market's growing, how many new communities there are coming up, how many older adults are entering the market. I mean, everybody's kind of vying for the same business. So I think that little 1%, 2%, 5% increase that somebody can generate could be the difference, between somebody getting a lead and somebody not getting the lead. I know we talked a little bit last time about your personal limit on employee size, and you said 25 employees or less was kind of like the magic number for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think even for senior living marketers trying not to grow too large, I mean, what advice would you give to agency owners or to small marketing teams?
Yeah. So what I would say is my number is actually lower than that. It's actually Sweet 16. And I've been a part of 3 or 4 agencies that cross that threshold 4 or 5 times, right? We did this. And I remember the first time we went from 12 to 25, then to 42 back in the mid 90s. Like at employee 17, I'm like, who are these people? And by when I left and they were on their way to 40, they were at like 30 something. And I was like, I'm not interested anymore. And I went downstairs and there were 6 people and it got to 18 at peak. And I was like, this is losing interest. Then I did it again in 99, where we went from 0 to 19 people in the first year as a startup agency, 99, 2000. It was the next day, I came back from a vacation, employee 17 walked in with a birthday cake. And I'm like, who are you? Like, thank you. Like, this, very beautiful woman that I was like, is this like a joke? But again, then I go on to work the next couple of weeks. I was like, I don't feel like I know these people. Like it just had a dilution effect. So when I launched Anvil in 2000, I told my team we are never going to be, originally it was going to be 8. And then we lost Discovery Channel because I said, you're only 8 people, it would never hire you. And I was like, okay, 16, that's it. So I built our space 15, 16 years ago for no more than 16 people. And I said, if we ever find more than 16 brilliant people, I'll deal with that when I get there. And guess what? At one point we were at 17, but it wasn't 16. It was not even 16 brilliant people. And I rolled a couple of people out, right? So I just think it's hard. So to your question about like in-house marketing teams can be much smaller in the senior living environment, like 4 or 5 people, I would say, in a big organization, honestly. But with AI and with the kind of outsourced standard of offshoring, nearshoring, freelance contractors, what I'm seeing, and I tend to agree with this through my Next Northwest network here in Oregon and beyond, is that companies that were 30 to 50 employees are now 10 to 20 employees, and they're flexing up with humans and AI to meet the capacity. So they lower their risk and their burn rate. And then they have been known as larger, so they're still seen as larger. So you don't have the problem I did when I was too small. And I don't think the brands look at total headcount anymore like they used to. I think it's more like, do you have the capacity or ability? They don't expect these agencies to be able to carry the overhead that they used to because it's not even prudent, frankly. So I think that's the new normal, I think, is that honestly, the 22 years I ran an agency, we averaged probably, at the peak, we were closer to 14. At the lower end, we were, 11 or 12. And I was loving that size. But I was willing to go larger if we could justify it. And by the time I sold, I was like, I definitely would never want to justify it. And when I sold and we became almost 40 employees overnight, I was like, this is definitely not what I want. Right. So I've only been validated. I've never been proven wrong. There are some exceptional companies that have more than 16 people, but they're exceptions to a rule that I've found has been true for over 20 years.
In terms of skill sets too, I mean, the traditional agency model, you see everybody's siloed. Like there's the SEO team, the social media team, the ads team. In this new day and age of AI, are these skill sets all converging together? Are we looking for team members who are more versatile?
So what I would say, I started out, in search so early that there was no structure, there were no classes, there were no, conferences, there was no nothing in 96. So when I started building my teams back then in 97, I started building a team in 98 and then from scratch in 99. And then when I started in really full time in late 03 after doing an email marketing startup, everybody owned each each one person owned an account, and each person would own half a dozen to a dozen accounts. And the reason I originally did that was everybody needed to be a generalist, and it wasn't that hard to master. You knew the fundamentals. Keep in mind, Google Ads didn't come around until 2002. It was brand new. So my team understood the basics, and clients weren't that sophisticated. And it was good enough. And then they knew SEO enough to be dangerous. And again, clients weren't that sophisticated. So they really understood kind of the whole thing. And then I grew them, and from 2003 to 2012, and I didn't realize it probably 5 years too late, that we were not aging properly and growing the structure, right? Which is, and this is more about unique ability and strengths, and everybody has a superpower. I did not map people's strengths, but I saw it horrifically backfire when I forced everybody needs to do everything. So my best future account people were great with clients, love them. And the clients were more forgiving that they weren't good at getting things done on time or to a certain standard. Again, my clients were getting smarter every day about this stuff. And then my practitioners really didn't want to talk to the clients. These clients were getting in my way. Can you make sure the client doesn't talk to me? I'm like, you kind of have to do that. So it finally occurred to me in a perfect storm, being an EO member, this entrepreneurs organization, where I had this guy talk about freak factor and fly your freak flag, figure out what you do best and just do that. And I realized I need to bifurcate. If you're an account person, you're a high empath people person, and you build trust quickly and people love you and you're all about taking care of them. Unfortunately, those people do not promote well into a manager role. Like your best salespeople become poor managers, sales managers. So be careful. And then the dual track is, or you become a specialist, right? In SEO, PPC, whatever. And I definitely had a strong bifurcation. You're either SEO or you're PPC. And by PPC, I mean just digital ads, because it's a different skill set. So whether you're Facebook, Google, doesn't matter. My team did all ads, and then the SEO team and the account team would do organic social or whatever else. So there's the organic, kind of the PR track and the ad track. And I found that specialization worked exceedingly well. I've had maybe 2 people out of 100 or more people that have worked for me over the years, maybe more, that actually could do either side well and interchangeably. But that's 1 or 2 out of over 100 people, 1%ers. So you really should do one thing really well instead of half-assing everything. That's the challenge with being a freelancer. I have freelancers. I still only recruit freelancers to do specific roles so that I'm still following that practicum of keeping people in their special place.
And what do you recommend for senior living providers that maybe are looking to outsource their marketing? Would you recommend that they go with a larger agency if it's a regional or national provider, or do you think they should stay with a lean team that's maybe more agile and not at risk? I feel like a bloated company is more at risk of having to downsize at some point and maybe dropping some services or quality of work.
I would loathe to work at, or even worse, own a large agency. I think they are dying, and the profit model doesn't work anymore. AI can replicate 30% of their workforce. You know what I mean? The force multiplier means you could be, 20 to 40% of your current size and do the same amount of work. Also, playing to people's strengths, meeting where they want to be, meaning hybrid work instead of, forced in the office. And I was a big in-office guy. I was really reticent to give up any remote, hybrid, anything. But that's where it is, and that's the reality. And there's a lot of good can come of it. I think you miss without being face-to-face in the same room. There is a connectivity that is lost you cannot replace. You can try and mitigate it. So I guess what I would say is I've worked at 3 large full-service agencies. And we didn't do any one thing well, and we charged 3 times as much for the convenience of having one invoice. That was pretty much what clients were willing to pay a premium for. Why do you go to a dealership for repairs instead of a local mechanic? Some sort of promise, right? And so you paid 30 to 50% more. So I don't go to the dealership unless it's under warranty. So that's how I feel about marketing. I think the best use of, if I'm ever going to be in a position to hire an agency, it's going to be lean and mean. They may even not have the depth of experience in my industry, although a little goes a long way, as long as I like their thinking, their philosophy, and their team. Because at one point I didn't know any industry, right? And then after 1,200 clients, I know almost every industry, at least cocktail conversation wise. And so I would walk my talk and give the smart company a chance, but they better be lean and mean, so I know I'm getting the best price, and I know that they are already weathered the hardest part, that they don't need to reduce staff. It means I'm going to lose my account people or my team on their side. That's expensive, and when I had 100% turnover for 2 years as I rebuilt my team, I lost clients left and right. They didn't like change. Even though I was upgrading the team, they'd rather have no change than change for the better. Okay. That was some of my clients. The ones that stuck with me definitely benefited from weathering it out, and my apologies to them. It was my bad for letting it get so bad before I had to blow it up. So I would say that you go with lean and mean. And the other way I look at it is there is full service or, multi-service. They can still be a small boutique. And then there's the individual specialists. And then there, like boutique, even smaller boutiques, 3 to 15 people versus 15 to 30 or whatever it is. And then there's the freelancers. So there's a benefit and drawback to each. And I think what I look at is when I would go to a mid-sized firm to get the most level of experience possible for strategy, and then that's all I would hire them for, or do a trial, 3 to 6 month trial to see if they can do what I need at the price I need it. And usually they can't. In my experience, their overhead's too high to make it work. So then you go down to the specialist, you try that, or you go straight down to the freelancer. The downside with the freelancers, if you have the budget, go into a boutique so that there's somebody always able to work on your account versus I'm on vacation or I had a baby. The freelance thing can be really deadly in times of crisis unless that person is very experienced and has a backup plan. So, but I say, like, coming from the PR world, I don't think it makes sense to hire a big bloated PR firm. You hire, unless it's just for the strategy, because literally you can have any AI develop a strategy that's probably 80% dialed and take you far enough, and you can have a very junior person implement it and get maybe 50 to 60% of the value and pay absolutely nothing other than the salary of a very junior entry level. So I think the challenge is the big expensive firms, the Burson Marsh Settlers, the Wagner Hudstroms here in town, like their days are numbered in the way they offer their pricing, and their service has to change. And so, yes, I would go lean and mean every time. But again, maybe not so lean to individual freelancers because of the one person prop, but a lean and mean smaller team that has enough people to get, at least two, if not 3 layers of backup if somebody's out or otherwise distracted, so you can get an answer and shit done. And I think that's the important thing when I would look at, size and shape.
You said you'd rather have double conversions than double ad spend. Can you unpack that for me?
Yeah. I mean, so conversion rate optimization is key. So I just gave a presentation at Digital Summit in Denver about conversion rate optimization. And, every percent that you increase your conversion rates is exponential, meaning if I'm a 1% conversion rate on my leads to my senior living center, if I'm going from let's say a 2%, because that's a little low, but let's say 2%, and then I go to 3%, that's a 25, 30%. That could be massive revenue. So when I was at an e-commerce retailer back in 2000 selling TVs and digital cameras, we only had a 1.5% conversion rate because people would showroom. They would look at the website and then go to the showroom back when that was saying. Now we reverse showroom, right? We go look at it and then we go buy it online. So at a 1.5%, the first thing I did when I landed there as the marketing guy wasn't SEO, wasn't PR. It was conversion rate optimization. I had one of my friends that's an expert in user experience. He looked at our checkout and our clearance section and made some minor changes. And I think it was good for like between 0.5% and 0.75% increase. So we went from 1.5 to 2 and 2.25. And that was almost $2 million by the end of the year because it was a high volume website. And so I didn't quite double the conversions, but I made a massive impact on the bottom line. And before I went and amped up the SEO and did some PR and things with Tower Records, if that doesn't date me. But that stuff worked, giving away cameras to email lists and stuff. But again, once I had the higher conversion rate, I knew I was maybe 80, 90% of the way there. And then we could continue to iterate like, Amazon does every second of every day for the last 20 years.
And when we look at senior living websites and we're talking about conversions, why do most of them leak leads?
I would say there's a handful of issues. The first is when I come to the homepage as a first-time visitor, does it speak to me? Do they understand that I am looking because am I a family member? Am I a practitioner, a professional looking for a quick referral? Who am I? And does it speak to me? And does it separate those audiences and segment them into a flow that's unique to what they need? Because a professional does not care about the amenities like they care about the care. The family might care about the amenities and not care about the level of care. as much as they should. So the example I gave in Denver was a company that built crates for dogs and catios for cats. And the homepage spoke to both audiences and throughout the experience. And what the firm that I work with, Forex, determined through the analytics and a reverse lookup and heat mapping was that, or you could just ask any pet owner, is that there's maybe no more than 20% overlap between dog and cat lovers. So what they did is they bifurcated experience. Do you love cats or dogs? I do have a cat or a dog. And then everything was different after that. And it like doubled the conversions. Because once you're speaking to me and then you take me on a dog journey, like I am a cat guy. Like my friend just had a dog over, like stinks. And every day at every hour, you're picking shit up off the ground. Like that's not for me. And so, we just bought an automated cat litter box. That's the craziest thing ever. And we only update it once every 2 weeks and it never smells. It's magic. And it's almost $800. Best money I've ever spent. So my point is, and now I see their ads in my feed all the time. Circling back real quick to search, I think that we'll continue to see ads in our daily lives throughout, but it may not be in the intentional action search mode. We'll still see more passive consumption, I think, on Instagram and socials and apps and so forth. Hopefully I answered that question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And because you've worked in so many other verticals, what do you think senior living's missing that other industries have figured out?
I would say beyond user-centered design, meaning you don't design it based on what the CEO likes or the VP of marketing likes, colors and fonts. You design it for the users, the family, the caregivers, the family members, the children, the aunts and uncles, the sisters and brothers, the medical professionals. And what do they care about? What matters to them? And design for them. Secondarily is conversions on every page. You make the ask. If you make the ask, you're probably not going to get the conversion. And so I think that's what other industries do well. The other is personalization. So utilizing some of these tools are getting smarter and smarter, including not just chatbots, but other dynamically generated website content or email content that, my God, this speaks to me. They know I'm in my phase, my father's and mother in their 80s, and they're resistant to going into senior living. They think there's a stigma there, like hearing aids and whatever. So what are some of the messages I would need if I think it's time? Right? That's the kind of how I would approach it, is generating that content for those people based on where not only they are, but where their parents are or their loved one. And that's the important thing is, my dad had a minor stroke 5-6 years ago, and I thought I was going to have to put him in senior care. I went through the whole process, and he went and toured the facility. He's like, no way, you're not getting in. I will never go into a place like this willingly. And I was like, noted. And so he literally willed himself to recover his vocabulary and all. He had thankfully not really impacted his motor skills, but he had a dragging foot that's gone. Like he literally did near impossible just to avoid a senior living situation. Like whatever it takes, he at some point will end up in some sort of care, but we all will at some point if we're lucky, I guess. But, that's the important part, is like, what do I do with a resistant, parent nearly in denial? So I think that's an example I'd give.
Yeah. I think there's such an aversion because it's such a relationship focused, human centered focused industry. There's an aversion to data driven decision making. How could senior living providers utilize that in a smarter, better way?
I mean, man, that's not $1 million question. It's $1 billion question. I would say that make sure you're mining all the data, you're putting in a data lake in your Pro GPT-4 or your Claude premium account or whatever, and then asking the right questions to unveil new ideas and new patterns that you wouldn't have thought of on your own. Again, there's some things that humans understand inherently that AI may not pick up, but AI is really good at synthesizing data, and they don't have the bias that humans do, unless it's programmed by a biased human, of course, we've learned. But if you get my drift, I think it's really about capturing the right data, analyzing it, synthesizing, and then, God forbid, the biggest failure I've seen by a majority of my clients is action. Like acting on that insight instead of just talking about it, thinking about it, going, oh, that's interesting, but not actually making implementations, changes, optimizations that make a difference on the website, throughout your conversation string, across, omni-channel. With AI as it is, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to hit people with resonating, consistent messages. They don't have to be identical, but it should be relevant to each of the form factors, whether it's my phone, my computer, on TV, a print mailer that just came in today. Like these things all should be resonant and personalized over time, like hyper personalized. So it's like the creepy thing, like my wife picked up a new bag for me for Father's Day, a ski bag. And we were talking about it. And all of a sudden I started seeing luggage in my Instagram feed. I'm like, dude,
That's
what?
crazy when that
Right. So
happens.
that's where that's going. And it's
Yeah.
unsettling as a marketer, let alone a human, to see that. But that is where it's absolutely going.
Awesome. Well, Ken, thank you so much. This was such a great conversation. I know our audience has got a ton out of this. So where can our audience go to learn more about Anvil Unlimited or connect with you directly?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. This has been really fun.
Yeah.
My day job, where you can find me, is at nextnorthwest.org, and executive director of that organization. So if you're in the Pacific Northwest and you're a marketer in the creative services, check out our website. We got a lot of resources and cool webinars with a lot of this MarTech, AdTech theme in the webinars in particular that anybody can attend. And then outside of that, related mostly to Anvil, is my Kent J. Lewis website, where I have my articles, my speaking engagements, press mentions. So we didn't have time, but we talked a bit about thought leadership, and I think that's a key part of driving AI optimization, is that new thought leadership content, speaking, writing, and pitching the media. So you can see a lot of examples at kentjlewis.com and follow me through that website as well.
All right. All right. Awesome. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to extend a huge thank you to you, Kent Lewis, for joining us and sharing your hard-earned insights from both the agency and advisory sides of marketing, from how AI is reshaping our strategies to the deeper role thought leadership plays in earning trust. Kent, your voice brings clarity and practicality to a conversation the senior living industry sorely needs. If you want to connect with Kent or learn more about his work with Anvil Unlimited or as a fractional CMO, we've included all of his links in the show notes. As always, we hope you found this episode insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and stay tuned for more episodes where we continue to explore the evolving world of senior care, covering everything from innovative care models and leadership strategies to family support, technology, and the future of aging. Also, remember that From Leads to Leases isn't just an audio experience. We're also a video podcast. So if you want to see the video versions of our episodes like the one here with Kent, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube or Spotify channels. I'm Jerry Vinci, CEO of CCR Growth. Thank you for joining us on From Leads to Leases. And please like, subscribe, and share this episode with anyone who might find it useful. I'm truly grateful for your time and attention. And until next time, lead with strategy and with heart. Chat with you again soon. Thanks, Kent.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to From Leads to Leases. Are you ready to fill your rooms faster and increase occupancy? Visit ccrgrowth.com to learn about our Senior Growth Innovation Suite, a proven system to generate highly qualified, tour-ready leads, accelerate sales, and reduce acquisition costs. Let's connect and turn your challenges into opportunities. See you next time.